Good morning, students. Welcome back to this discussion on audit. So we today plan to cover a couple of topics, actually, or you can say a couple of standards. One is about SQC1 and the other one will be about SA220. Now, as regards these two standards, if you look at, so these standards are quite peculiar in terms of what they cover. I would say also quite important. Now, when we talk about these two standards, okay, so they are all in respects of quality control. Now, let's try to understand as to what is the meaning of this quality control and how is it really relevant. See, we are looking at audit requirements, right? And when we look at the audit requirements, so we need to ensure that the auditor is knowledgeable, right? Because only when the auditor is knowledgeable, you can say he has got the required skill set. He will be able to perform the audit in an appropriate manner. Yeah. So now, for doing that, what does the auditor need? So one can say that auditor will be a chartered accountant. So he is expected to be knowledgeable. Yes or no? But the point is that behind that expectation, which is there from the auditor will also be required to do something. Okay, of course, he may qualify as a chartered accountant, but beyond that, there are a lot of aspects that he needs to keep learning. And it's all about setting up a system in place. So we are actually not talking about the organization now. So every time, whenever we discuss about the audit, so what did we discuss? Every time we discuss about the company, about its management, as to what the company is required to do and what the management is required. Yeah. But today, our focus is not on the company or the management. Our focus will be completely towards the professional firm. Professional firm means a firm of chartered accountants for our purposes. Okay, which is involved in attestation services. When it comes to attestation, it could be related to any type of attestation. The important part is that the attestation services are what a chartered accountant is rendering, or you can say a firm of chartered accountant is rendering as its services. Now, in this case, if you talk about a professional firm, yes or no? So every professional firm will have some people. So let's suppose there's a professional firm comprising of, say, 50 people. So let's suppose there are a few partners, then there are a few directors, managers, and there are some senior chartered accountants, below managers, say assistant managers. Okay, and there are a lot of interns. Interns means the articles. So that's how typically what you find the structure of a CA firm to be. Correct. Now, for this firm to function in a manner in which it is required, firm will also need some SOPs. Yes or no? So every time we talk about the company, the management, okay, the systems which they need to put in place, the processes which they need to have, and the processes should have appropriate controls. The control should be operating, in an effective manner. So the same goes with the CA firm also, or you can say professional firm also. So this professional firm is also expected to ensure that the services which it renders, they are offered with the topmost quality. Yes or no? Yeah. So that is what the expectation of a client will always be from a professional or from a service provider. Yeah. So a professional firm is what? Service provider only. Correct. So now, for this professional firm, to provide services, okay, wherein it can ensure the quality, which is of paramount importance. How is that possible? When the firm also builds its own process, its systems, its SOPs, so that the final deliverable which is given to the client, okay, the output of the audit is something which is of perfect quality. Correct. Now the question arises that how would a professional firm ensure that? Because a professional firm is a professional firm. It is already having a lot of professionals who are working in the organization. So does it also need some sort of system? Answer is yes. It will also need a system. And that system is what we are going to look at through SQC1. Because we are not talking about SA 220 right now. We are talking about SQC1. So what is SQC? Standard on quality control. So the standard is all about quality control. But please understand that when we are talking about SQC1, so we are not talking about anything in relation to audit. Okay? We have got nothing to do with the company, right? Yeah, so that's the perspective you need to carry when you are looking at SQC1, because generally there's a tendency. What is the tendency? That whenever you will discuss audit, immediately to your mind, you'll think about a company, you'll think about the information which has to come from the company, of course, because it's something which is related to audit. So that's why information from the clients will also be required in a similar manner. But we are not talking about an engagement right. We are talking about firm right now, that internally, as a professional firm, what should it do? What are the various parameters which are prescribed for this professional firm? And that is what comes from Standard on Quality Control 1, which is SQC1, which is in relation to the attestation services which a professional firm gets. Clear? Clear on this? Now, this standard basically talks about few elements, or you can say there are certain aspects which this standard talks about. Yeah. Now, it is all about, you can say, the process which the professional firm is required to follow. So that's why you can say that for ensuring the quality in a professional firm, standard gives 6 criteria or 6 parameters, or you can say 6 aspects, which are called as elements of this standard. Okay, elements of this standard to ensure that there is a system of quality control in place in the professional firm. As a professional firm, what it needs to do is it needs to bring in those elements as a part of its policies, as a part of its procedures. Yeah. So effectively, we can say that the policies and procedures which a professional firm needs to have in place, they will be based on these 6 elements once. And for these 6 elements, again, a detailed criteria is prescribed by the standard. It explains, it provides you guidance as to what needs to be done by the professional firm in respect of each of those elements. So let's just talk about all of those elements also one by one. Yes, what are those elements? First, leadership responsibilities for quality within the firm. Second, ethical requirements. Third, acceptance and continuance of client relationships and specific engagements. Fourth, HR. HR is all about people. Okay, so every organization will have human resource department, HR department. So similarly, a CA firm is also expected to have this HR function in place. And we'll discuss about that HR. Engagement performance. Now, this is specific to the engagement, that in respect to a particular engagement, what should a CA firm do? How it should really look at those performances of various engagements. But here again, we are not talking about any specific audit. We are talking about various audits or various attestation services which a professional firm renders or plans to render. Monitoring. Okay. So these are the 6 elements that we have. So what we can do now is we can look at all of these elements one by one. We can just try to spend some time on each of these elements and try to understand as to what is it trying to convey, what is it that is expected to be looked at as far as each of these elements is concerned. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll just share one sort of checklist with you. That checklist is all about this standard on quality control. Okay, and I would say a good checklist to be in place. This can help the professional firm in terms of setting up a system, or you can say a process in place, or all of these policies and procedures in place in line with SQC 1. Okay. And with the help of that checklist, we'll just try to go through all of these requirements. Okay, yeah. So now, if we look at this checklist, so where does this checklist come from? This checklist comes from the accounting standard, from this SQC 1 only. Okay, so currently on the screen, the sheet that you can look at, this is nothing but SQC 1. Right? Now, for SQC 1, which has got different paras, yeah, so we can say all of these paras are based on 6 elements that we talked about. Correct? So what we can do is we can just pick up each of these elements one by one, right? And for all of those elements, we can just try to understand as to what is the thought process. Yeah. Now, let's look at some of these requirements one by one. So just give me a minute and just increase the screen size. Okay. Now, as we discussed, there are 6 elements. So we are broadly talking about all of these 6 elements. Now, what does this SQC requires? The quality control policies and procedures should be documented. Okay, so it should be documented and communicated to the firm's personnel. Such communication describes the quality control policies and procedures and the objective they are designed to achieve. Includes the message that each individual has a personal responsibility for quality and is expected to comply with these policies and procedures. In addition, firm recognizes importance of obtaining feedback on its quality control system from its personnel. Therefore, firm encourages its personnel to communicate their views or concerns on quality control matters. Right? So now what is the first and foremost requirement? That when you are talking about all of these elements, which are nothing but the policies and procedures, or which will have to take the shape of a policy and procedure document. So it has to be documented, means it has to be there in writing. Now, writing doesn't mean you'll use a piece of paper and write it by hand. Yeah, so you can have it on Word file, okay, or any of the format that you want to follow. So it has to be documented. Further, it should be accessible to each and every employee in the professional firm, so that he can understand what are the policies of the firm. Yes or no? Only then he will get to know that what is it that he is required to work on as a firm, or you can say as a part of the firm, so that he can help in contributing to the overall objectives of the firm. Correct? Yeah. So any sort of revision, any sort of feedback which is required therein to further improve that will only help the overall system, or you can say overall this policy and procedures document. Now, let's talk about the first requirement. Okay. Now, SQC starts with the leadership. Now, what is leadership? Leadership is all about the top management. Now, when it comes to setting up any process, it is very, very important that if anything is expected by various employees of the organization to be carried out in a certain manner, then the top management of that particular organization should be very clear about. Okay? And that is something which they should also be doing themselves. Yeah. So what is the role of a leader? Leader has to lead by example. Leader has to set up the things for the entire team. Correct? So now, as a part of the professional firm, now who is going to be the leader? Managing partner of the firm is expected to be the leader. Yeah. Similarly, senior partners of the firm are expected to be the leader. Yeah. So for all of them, what is important? For all of them, it is important that they promote an internal culture. Internal culture means they bring in a culture within the organization. Okay. So that quality is essential or considered as essential in performing each and every engagement. Yeah. Yeah. And who will have the eventual responsibility, ultimate responsibility for this? It will have to be with the managing partners, or whoever is the CEO or equivalent. Yeah, in a professional firm, typically it's the managing partner who is playing this role. So now, as a first point, what do we need to have? We need to have a clear-cut, laid out structure of a professional firm. Because otherwise, how do you set up? How do you assign all of these responsibilities to different individuals? Correct? Yeah. So now the question arises that does it mean that a small professional firm which may have only, say, for example, 10 employees, does it mean that it needs to have a lot of other employees or needs to hire people specially for this role? The answer is no. The same role may be played by one person, or you can say 2 to 3 roles can also be played by one person, again depending on the size of the organization. Yeah. So idea is not to make the structure too heavy just to ensure its compliance. But of course, wherever it's possible, so this sharing of responsibility has to be there. Only then it can be promoted within the organization. Clear? Yeah. Now, when it comes to the leadership, so leadership is expected to set examples. He needs to communicate this message within the firm that quality is something which will always be considered to be the most important part when it comes to performance of any activity. Yeah. Perform the work that complies with professional standards and regulatory and legal requirements. Can you help me with some professional standards? Can you tell me what are these professional standards which are being discussed? Anyone? What do you mean by these professional standards?
These are the ethical standards.
Okay. Anyone else? What are these professional standards? See, professional standard means any standard which a professional is expected to follow. Now, what could be an example of professional standards? As a part of audit, professional standard will have to follow auditing standards. So that is nothing but a professional standard. Professional will also be required to ensure compliance with accounting standards. So they are nothing but the professional standard. Similarly, any sort of other standard. Okay, all of these are what? These are the responsibilities of professional. Yeah. Now, when it comes to leadership, sufficient and appropriate experience and ability that enables the responsible person or persons to identify and understand quality control issues and to develop appropriate policies and procedures. Necessary authority enables the person or persons to implement those policies and procedures. Now, what does it mean? It means that all of these aspects are required to be looked at by whom? Leadership. Yeah, all of these are the responsibilities of the leader, and that's where this SQC1 starts. So there is a very popular saying that everything which has to be followed in the organization. Okay, so if you've heard about this tone at the top, okay, whatever the top will say, that is what the entire organization will follow. So now, if let's suppose organization wants to ensure quality control, they want to ensure that quality is there, then it has to come from the top management. Because if the top management is not really concerned about it, or even if they are concerned about it, but they don't communicate that well, then the remaining organization may not be getting that clear message. Yeah. So the very important aspect over here is tone at the top. Yeah. That is what sets up the entire quality control system. Okay. Next. Next is about ethics. Now, on ethics, I'm sure you would have already looked at a lot of requirements. You must already be knowing that ethics are very important as far as any engagement is concerned. And that's where this standard also especially highlights this aspect of ethical requirements. So what does it say? It says ethical requirements related to its reviews, okay, or any other assurance or related service engagements. Where are they prescribed? Code of ethics. Code of ethics which are issued by ICAI. Correct? Now, if you look at that code of ethics, it establishes some fundamental principles of professional ethics, which include, they are not exhaustive, which include, what do they include? Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, professional behavior. So every professional in the organization, now professional doesn't mean it has to be a chartered accountant always. So any person working on a professional engagement is expected to be a professional. So an intern who is nothing but an article, should we call him as a professional? Answer is yes. Yeah. So the engagement team member for any attestation service, what do you call him as? Professional. Yeah. So these are the 5 traits which every professional needs to follow. Okay. Next, and again, continuing on the same aspect, is about the independence. I think this is the most important aspect. Yes or no? This is the most important aspect when it comes to ensuring the quality control system in place. Every auditor, or you can say every service provider, when I'm talking about service provider, please remember it has to be attestation services. He is expected to be independent, right? So therefore, the organization should have a proper system in place. For what? For communicating its independence requirements to its personnel. Further, identify and evaluate circumstances and relationships that create threats to independence. Can you give me any example of any kind of threat which could be there to an independence? Anyone? Any one example of any type of threat which could be there on independence?
So self-interest threat.
Sorry?
Self-interest threat.
Okay. So can you please explain what is the self-interest threat?
Means he have an interest in that means party. Means.
And how do you get interest in that party?
Some gifts and something they are providing us and we are receiving it.
Okay. What else? Anyone else?
Familiarity threat.
Okay. What is this familiarity threat?
If the same person is continuing the audit and having the more long association with the client, they will have the familiarity threat.
Right. So similarly, there could be various types of threats.
Yeah, advocacy threat is there. Intimidation threat is there.
Yes.
And self-review threat is there.
Very good.
There are about 5 threats are there totally.
Correct. So now, every auditor, I'm just using this term auditor because we are talking about attestation services, is expected to perform in a manner which is free from any sort of bias, or you can say any sort of threat. Yes or no? Yeah, that's where he is expected to be independent. Yeah. So now, how will the organization do this? So one point is auditor will have to take care of this, but who is the auditor? If you talk about a professional firm having 50 people, so they must be doing, say for example, 100 engagements during the year, or maybe 500 engagements during the year, to ensure that this independence is there in respect of each and every team member for all of those 500 engagements. How do you ensure that? By setting up policies and procedures within the organization. So no, yeah. So that's what the standard requires. Now, how will the organization practically do this? So let's talk about practical aspects. Okay. So every time an employee joins the organization, okay, when I'm talking the term organization, it's a professional firm. So he will be required to sign a document on independence. Yeah. Wherein he will confirm his independence. And he will also confirm that he will comply with all the independence requirements which the firm is subject to and which he will also be subject to. So that's one. Further, before starting any engagement, for that particular engagement, any kind of independence, okay, which is required to be ensured for that particular engagement, that confirmation is also required to be provided by that professional. Now, this is all about setting up a system. See, there are two ways you can set up the system. What is the first way? You can create a design. Design is nothing but the document. Yes or no? It's similar to RCM in case of a company. For an RCM, what will the company do? Company will set up a process. Means they will document the process, which is called as design. Now the second part is implementation, which is again a very important part. Implementation. Yes or no? Now, as we discussed, that every employee of the organization needs to sign an independence form. Okay, when he joins the organization or on an annual basis. Now, in this case, this is what you call as its implementation. So the policy requires every professional to do this, and the implementation means it is being done by the organization. Further, whether this is done during the year or not, and if at all there is any breach of independence policies and procedures, till the time it is not communicated by the firm, can that be corrected? Answer is no. Answer is no. So that's why firm needs to have a system in place through which firm can also track any kind of breaches which could be there in respect of any of these policies and procedures. So that means a firm needs to have a monitoring mechanism in place. Okay, say for example, what is the first thing? Firm will document its policy of independence. That's done. What is the second step? Firm will require that all the 50 employees will sign the independence form. That is also done. Now, what is going to be the third step? Third step is that firm will set up a separate team which will review, which will check all of these independence forms. Yes or no? Because till the time you don't check as to what the employees have done, how do you get to know about it, whether it's correct or not? And if at all there are any problems therein, so that needs to be corrected. Yeah. So an action plan needs to be in place for correction of that, which will again be documented over here. Okay, that will again be documented over here. That if at all any breach is found, what is it that is required to be done by the firm and the employee. Through this, firm will ensure that the quality parameter in respect of ethical requirements which are prescribed by SQC1 are in place. Understood? Yeah. So it's not only about putting down a document in the form of policy. No, its implementation is all the more important. Because if the document is there, but the document is not getting implemented, if the policy is not getting implemented, then it's of no use. Yeah. And this is what this SQC requires the firms to do. Okay. Now, moving on to the third aspect, client acceptance. Now, this is again an important area. See, what is client acceptance and client continuance? Can somebody explain what is your understanding of client acceptance or client continuance?
Client acceptance means the accepting the client assignment, whether it is assurance or audit.
Right.
And the continuance means the existing audit when you are continuing the subsequent year.
Right.
What are the formalities to be done? That is a continuance aspect with the relationship to the client relationship.
Correct. So now,
checking whether you are competent to perform the audit or the assurance which is being who will perform these within your organization, and the integrity and the integrity of the client.
Correct. So you are talking about some of the procedures which the firm will have to follow while accepting the client or while continuing with the client. Yes or no? Yeah. See, this element, or you can say this SQC, talks about two aspects over here. Or you can say two types of situations could be there within the organization. Say, for example, there is a company ABC Limited. It was getting audited by any other firm, but starting from 1st April 2025, this will be audited by, let's suppose, PQR and Company, and we are looking at PQR and Company. PQR and Company is what? It's a professional firm. Okay, now for PQR and Company, it's a new engagement. But can we say that every time a company wants to appoint an auditor, it can just do that on its own? There is a no. It has to be on the basis of a mutual consent. What is the meaning of mutual consent? Mutual consent means ABC Limited, which is the company, and PQR and Company. They have to agree. Yeah, they have to agree. Both of them. That what is going to be the scope, what is going to be the deliverable, what are going to be the responsibilities of each and every party, yeah, including the fee and all. Correct? Now, that means that before this engagement, so this is what you call as engagement. Engagement is what? It's like a job, okay, or an activity, right, for a particular delivery. PQR and Company has got some criteria. So SQC talks about certain aspects, certain requirements which PQR needs to follow. So PQR just can't accept each and every engagement. The answer is no. Why? Because PQR is expected to be a responsible party. As a professional, it has got some responsibilities. Now, what is that responsibility? Integrity. And to also ensure integrity of the management of ABC Limited, or you can say of directors of ABC Limited. Now, what if ABC is involved in some illegal activities? So will it be appropriate for PQR and Company to get engaged with ABC? Answer is no. Answer is no. Yeah, as a professional, PQR should not associate. But before accepting the engagement, PQR needs to do a sort of diligence on its part in respect of various things about its management, about the risk which is involved in the engagement, what is going to be the scope. If at all they are changing auditors, what are the reasons for the change in this service provider or change in the professional firm. Further, PQR also needs to introspect itself. It may happen that ABC is a very large company, right? And it may require some specialist of that industry. Let's suppose ABC is operating in banking sector, but PQR and Company doesn't have any exposure of the banking sector. So will PQR and Company be able to provide the required quality to the client? Do they have the capability? Do they have the competence? Now, being a large company, ABC may require a dedicated team of 30 persons on the engagement throughout the year. PQR may be having, say, let's suppose only 40 persons who are all occupied on different existing engagements. Now, with this new engagement, will the PQR have the ability in terms of the resources and time to service this engagement? All of these questions are required to be answered by PQR and company internally. This is what you call as client acceptance procedures. And similarly, this sort of review is required to be performed for continuing with this engagement. So let's suppose for first year, this audit is completed. Next year, again, when a PQR plans to continue, PQR should again revisit all of these requirements and accordingly continue with this engagement. Now the question arises, how will the firm do this? So firm will have a lot of various ways, you can say, to do this. First of all, PQR can ask a lot of questions from the management of ABC. Okay, any sort of information which they require before accepting the work, they can discuss that, ask for that, look at those documents. A lot of information about various companies, about its personnel are available in the public domain. You can do Google, you can do ChatGPT, you can also look at their profiles of the directors. Yeah. You can always look at the website of the company, you can go through its financial statements. A lot of information is available about the company. All of these aspects are required to be carefully assessed by before accepting any engagement. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, it may happen that the engagement is accepted, or maybe the engagement is continued, and later on, PQR is not able to service ABC in the manner it is required, or maybe ABC is not found to be the right set of company or the client with whom the professional should get associated. Right? So there are a lot of steps which PQR and company can follow. Okay? Yeah. Now, once again, the question arises that of course all of these aspects can be considered to be the policies, procedures. So here again, what do we need to do? Here again, the firm needs to set up again a three-way check. One, to begin with, will be a document. Okay, that will be the document to begin with. Second, its implementation means before any acceptance is engaged or before any engagement is accepted, firm should document its basis of acceptance, its basis of confidence, answering all of those questions with the set of documents attached over there on the basis of which that evaluation has been done. Third, now you can say we can bring in a third team within the organization, within the professional, which is called as the risk management team. Now, what is going to be their role? Their role will be to once again review this. Okay. Now the question arises that this team which will be created internally within the firm, is this team expected to review each and every such document? Again, it depends on the volume. Okay, it's similar to what you do in case of any other client. It can be done on a test check basis. Okay. Or maybe if the documents are very few, it can be checked on 100% basis. Yeah. But some mechanism needs to be in place for monitoring of all of these documents, yeah, which will demonstrate implementation of this element by the professional. Clear? Clear on this?
Yes,
Moving
sir.
further.
Yes, sir.
Yes, moving further. Now on to this next element about HR. But before that, any questions, any doubts if you have, please let me know. Any questions, any doubts? Anyone?
Sir, with respect to acceptance continuance, how the risk assessment team will support and help, sir?
So you can say it's like setting up a separate team who will be involved in review of this type of activities. So for example, say when we talk about PQR, okay, let's suppose PQR is a firm. Yeah. And during the year, there are 500 engagements it has performed. Now what will happen? Firm will have a file wherein 500 client acceptance or continuance forms are filled, documented by different engagement teams. Now, as far as design is concerned, it's there in the form of a policy. As far as its implementation is concerned, it's there in the forms, duly filled up. But what may happen is that maybe out of these 500 engagement teams, so that means there are 500 engagement teams who have worked during the year. Maybe 10 teams didn't follow this requirement. They didn't fill the form appropriately. They didn't look at all the parameters. It may happen 5 teams didn't fill this form. Possible or not? Yeah. Now, if those 15 engagements are there, wherein this criteria has not been fulfilled, will that be a risk for PQR and company or not? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Will that be a risk? Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a risk. Now, what do you do to take care of that? You need to put in a place through which a check of some of these engagement forms or some of these documents. So it's similar to an audit. Every time a company does the accounting, they also have a team who will be looking at that information. They will also be preparing the financial statements. But why do they need audit? So that anything which is required to be performed by the company, if that has not been performed, auditor can come and check that and get that corrected. So same is the case. Now what PQR needs to do is they need to assign a person. Again, depending on the size. What is going to be his role? His role will be to check. What is going to be the role? To check these forms. Now he may check that on sample basis or all. Now who is going to be that person? That person could be a team. Okay, PQR may think that I'll need a team of 3 persons because the workload is going to be too much. Or it could be only one person who is dedicated only to this activity within the organization. Generally, this is what you call as a risk management team. Yeah. What is their role? What is their responsibility? To manage this type of to manage these types of risks for the professional. Clear?
Yes, sir. Whether he will look at only the this acceptance and continuance in all other matter also, leadership, ethics, and HR, all this thing.
See, that again depends on the size, on the volume which is involved. Okay. If let's suppose volume of the firm in terms of various engagements is too much, let's suppose 6 persons have been deputed. So there's a team of risk management. And they have internally allocated that client acceptance forms, 1 person will check. Leadership, ethics related documents, 1 person will check. That again depends. Okay, so there's no specified mechanism which has been prescribed. That again depends. Or they may depute only 1 person, that 1 person will take care of all of these things. So first he will do something related to ethics, then he'll check. Okay, but throughout the year he'll be involved in all of these activities. Yeah, so there's no prescribed methodology you need to set up. Idea is to ensure that this monitoring, this is what you call as monitoring. Okay, this monitoring is in place. Okay.
So, sir, monitoring is there for every principle. All these 6 principles, separately as well as collectively.
What do you mean by separately and collectively?
Meaning individually, all these aspects are looked into: leadership,
Of
human
course,
resources.
only when you look at that individually, that is when you ensure that collectively. Yes or no? And if you ensure that collectively, that is what you call as compliance of SQC1. Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now, moving further on to HR. Now, when it comes to a professional firm, we discussed that professional firm is a service provider. Yes or no? So what do they sell? They sell their services. So they are not manufacturing any product. Okay, they are not manufacturing any laptop. They are not manufacturing bottles. Right? What are they selling? They are selling the services of their people. Yes. Now, to ensure quality in the service, what do we need as a professional firm? People with the right skill set. Or you can say, people will become the most important part of any professional firm. Without the people, can the firm survive? Answer is no. Without the people, can it ensure quality? Answer is no. So therefore, professional firm needs to have a function in place through which it can ensure quality in respect of services being provided by its people, and that is possible when the people are taken care of. Correct? So how do you take care of those people? First is recruit them with an expectation of the quality parameters who align with the principles of the firm, who are ready to work towards the larger objectives of the organization. Yeah. So this recruitment doesn't mean that you can just recruit anybody. Recruitment should be done in an appropriate manner. Okay. Once the person is onboarded, he needs to be educated about the policies, procedures, as we discussed. That is where the leadership comes into the picture, and that is where the organization comes into the picture. So all of these communications in respect of various policies and procedures which the firm is having, once the employee is onboarded, that needs to be in place so that he is communicated about that, so that he can also get familiar with various policies and procedures of the firm. Only then he will be able to work towards the objectives. Now, while he will be working on various objectives, it is again important to evaluate the performance of all employees. Okay, idea is not to give them poor rating or bad rating. Idea is to work in a constructive manner so that any gaps, any improvement areas which are there, firm can take care of that. Okay. If the firm believes there are any improvement areas, so the firm can work along with that employee towards that. For ensuring quality, you can say continuing education is must. Say for example, say today you become a chartered accountant. Okay. Anyways, very soon all of you are going to become a chartered accountant. So let's suppose You are a chartered accountant today. So just now you have read everything. You have covered accounting standards, latest one. You have covered auditing standards, again the latest one. GST, any sort of laws, regulations. Okay, a lot of material content you would have covered. But can we expect that all of these literature that you would have covered will remain same over a period of next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Answer is no. That will keep evolving. Yes or no? But what if you are not updating yourself with the changes which are taking place? What will happen? You become or you start becoming obsolete. Yes or no? Yeah. So let's suppose you have covered, say for example, auditing standard, and next year that auditing standard has got revised. Now you are not aware of the new auditing standard. So what do you apply? Old one. If you apply old one, that is wrong. If you require new one, you do not have the knowledge about that. So therein, there is a need to upgrade yourself on a continued basis. Now, as a professional firm, to ensure quality, what is going to be the most important aspect? Training. Yes or no? Yeah. Training. Because that is how the quality can be ensured. Further, when it comes to the employees, an organization needs to have a clear-cut plan in place as to how their career will be developed. Okay, the promotion mechanism which is there, the compensation which is there, all of these aspects are required to be looked at by the professional. Further, when the people will be recruited, another very important aspect happens to be the estimation of personal needs. If you remember when we discussed about client acceptance, client continuance, so the firm is required to check whether the firm will have the capability to serve the clients or not. Capability not in terms of the competence.
Your capabilities in terms of times and resources and competence.
Yes, correct. Let's suppose for serving 500 engagements during the year, the firm will require 70 people. But the firm today has got only 40 people. So can the firm serve those 500 engagements? Answer is no. But how will the firm get to know about it? When they do this sort of resource allocation, when they do their planning. Yeah, so they need to plan that during the year for serving 500 engagements at different point of time, I'll need different teams on different engagements. Okay, do I have that, or will there be a shortfall? If let's suppose during 3 months I'll have a shortfall, so where do I get the people from? Okay, if let's suppose in the next 2 months I'll have some excess staff, so why can't I plan some additional jobs during that period? Yeah, so this is what you call as estimation of personal needs. It's an exercise which every professional firm needs to.
Sir,
Yes.
This is because to complete the engagement within the reporting deadline.
Right.
The estimation of personal needs is required.
Yes, of course. That's again very important. Right. Further, if the firm is not doing that, if the firm is not getting into this aspect of this or this evaluation, what will happen? Firm may not be able to deliver the engagements with the quality. Of course, the delivery will be done, but the quality may be compromised. If at all you need 10 people for the job, but you provide only 7 persons, so the 7 persons will be able to work but the quality will definitely be impaired. Yes or no? Yeah. So all of these aspects, they're in, it's very important for the organization to, yeah. And one of the very important aspects is about training. Okay. Yeah. So who has the responsibility for this? Again, the professional firm. Right. And here again, to design the training requirements will require an assessment of the different categories of employees. That who needs to be educated or updated or trained in respect of what sort of skill sets. Okay, maybe there are certain employees who are lacking on communication skills. Maybe there are some employees who are lacking on the accounting aspects wherein they need to be very strong on. Okay, maybe there are few employees who are not clear about the independence requirement, so the training on the independence requirements. Yeah. So similarly, different aspects which the firm will require in respect of the jobs which the employees will be required to serve. So this needs to be looked at by the firm. Correct? Yeah. And here again, there has to be somebody within the firm who can just ensure that whether this is only a design or this is also getting implemented. Because idea is not to look at the design. Idea is to ensure that the implementation is also in. Correct? Next, engagement performance. Okay, so now when you talk about engagement performance, in this case, we are going to go slightly specific about an engagement. But please remember that this SQC is not specific to any engagement. This SQC is about the firm as a whole. And this applies to all the engagements of the firm. Okay. Now, what this element requires the entity to do is that for each and every engagement, the right set of persons are picked. One is, if let's suppose 10 persons are required, so the 10% should be deputed. And right person should be there for the right job. You can say a mix of people. Idea is what? Idea is to ensure quality on the engagement. And how do you ensure quality on the engagement? That is only possible when you look at all of these aspects in respect of each and every engagement. So there has to be a planning meeting, there has to be independence requirements discussion, there has to be a sign off from the engagement team members in respect of the independence, which will specifically apply to that particular client for which the engagement is being planned. Yeah. So all of these aspects are required to be within the team. There should be a good mix of junior persons, maybe interns, or say some chart accountants, managers who will review the work. Okay. So if the interns are performing some work, chart accountants are performing some work, then their work is also getting reviewed in a timely manner during that engagement, so that any improvement areas which are there to complete the engagement can be taken care of, and there is somebody who is tracking the progress of the engagement. Yeah, so that's how you get into the completion. Yeah, so the supervision should also be there. Yeah, and eventually there has to be a partner who will review the work. Now, during the course of the engagement team at times may come across certain complex matters. Okay, many a times a matter could be quite complex. So the standard suggests that the engagement team should obtain consultations on those matters. Those consultations could be taken within the firm if there is a team available who is an expert or who has got right sort of skill set for the consultation, or at times, if required, this consultation can also be obtained from outside. Right? Yeah. Idea here again is what? Idea is to ensure that the quality is there. Standard says at times there could be some difference of opinion. Let's suppose within the firm there are 3 partners. Okay. Engagement team, engagement partner has got stuck. There's a complex matter. So there is another partner who is deputed to consult him. Okay. But they do not agree on the conclusion. So there's a difference of opinion. So the firm should also have a mechanism that now the engagement partner and the partner who is consulting him, they have a difference of opinion. So how do you resolve that? Because eventually it's not the engagement partner, it's the firm who is delivering the final deliverable. Correct? Yeah. Partner is only a designated person, but actually it's the firm. Correct? Yeah. So this mechanism has to be there so that any sort of difference of opinion which could be there is taken care of. Next is again a very important requirement about EQCR. EQCR. Now what is EQCR? Standard says
there will be this separate team to review the engagement quality and control.
Correct.
After completion of audit, before signing the report.
Correct.
They will review.
But here again, just to add to what you have just mentioned, see, generally there is a thought process. Now, what is the thought process? That there has to be an EQCR who will ensure quality in respect of the work which the engagement team has performed. And this EQCR has to be a team or whoever is that person. Right? And he will be looking at the work once the work is completed. Now, in this case, let's try to understand what is an EQCR. Now, this is a very important aspect. Say, this is the time cycle of the engagement. So there's a team of 10 persons who will be performing the engagement. So this is where they start their planning. And you can say this is going to be the phase of their execution. Means substantive testing, all of these things they will do. Correct? And you can say this is where they will conclude and they will also report. Yeah. Now the standard says that EQCR is nothing but a part of the engagement. And EQCR should be involved on the project right from the beginning. See, we have already discussed that if you do not plan your work well, how do you conclude? How do you execute? Yes or no? Yeah. So therefore, EQCR will also have the similar sort of challenges. If you do not involve him in the planning, if you do not stay him engaged at various stages during the audit, wherein you are facing any sort of challenges, or you take the inputs from the EQCR, if you bring him at the last moment, let's suppose at the last moment you bring the EQCR, and he comes up with 20 observations, which are actually correct, then what do? Do you go back? Restart the things? If you do that, will that be productive? Answer is no. So that's why EQCR has to be involved at different stages of the idea is not to make him a part of the team member and work him like a team member on each and everything. No, but to stay him engaged. Okay, so that if let's suppose planning is there, you discuss with him. Maybe during the middle of the engagement, you discuss any key matters. And then of course, at the time of conclusion, you make him review the files. Now this EQCR could be a person or it could be a team. That will again vary depending on the size which is involved for that particular engagement. Yeah. Now this EQCR again should be a person with the right skill set. He should again be competent, right? He is also expected to be independent. And because he's going to be a part of the team only, so that's why all of those independence ethical criteria will apply to the EQCR. Further, this standard says that once the engagement is completed, once the engagement is completed, what do you need to do? You need to archive the file. What is the meaning of archival of files? Archival means that this file should be closed. It should be kept at a place so that it is not reopened by every other person every now and then. Yeah. So it should be kept in a safe custody, which is not accessible to all. Or even if you want, you can only view that. You cannot make any changes. Yeah. So that is what you call as a documented file, which is archived. Yeah. So there is a period which is prescribed within 60 days from the signing of the audit report. Archival needs to be completed. Okay. That is what you call as documentation. And this retention of the archived file. So there again, the standard says, okay, you need to retain it for a specified period. Yeah, generally it's a period of 8 to 10 years for which you keep it, unless it's required for any sort of regulatory reasons, maybe any notices there which the engagement which has been done is involved. So that is where you may require this retention of the documentation or the archive file even for a larger period. Okay. Next.
Sir, is retention is no shorter than 7 years from the date of audit report?
Yes. Now, moving further on to the monitoring. Now, what is this monitoring? Okay, to a certain extent about the monitoring we have already discussed. See, monitoring is all about ensuring that each and every aspect which is involved in respect of EQC is monitored. Means somebody who is there in the organization, he is reviewing that, so that its implementation can be ensured. It should not be kept on a piece of paper. It should not be like a policy which has been documented, but nobody is following that. So that's why you need to have a monitoring mechanism for each of those elements. Yeah. And wherever there are any sort of breaches, there are any gaps, those are also looked at. Further, this monitoring also talks about monitoring mechanism in respect of the engagement performance. Now, what is the meaning of monitoring in respect of engagement performance? Let's suppose firm has got 4 partners, okay, 4 audit partners, say 8 managers who are involved in handling, say, 200 engagements during the year. Right? As we discussed that each and every engagement should meet the quality parameters. Yes or no? Each and every engagement should meet the quality parameters.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
for
sir.
ensuring the quality parameters for each engagement, what does the firm need? Firm needs to have a monitoring system in place. Every year, when these 200 engagements are completed, when they are documented, files are archived, means they are completed in all respects. There has to be a team which will pick up on a random basis engagement file of each partner, engagement file of each manager, to ensure that the engagement was carried out as per the professional standards. this is what you also call, very commonly this is called as practice reviews by various firms. Okay, some of them call it as called reviews. Yeah, so different terminologies are used. So this is all about monitoring of the engagement performance. Now, for this monitoring, once again, let's try to understand one of the important aspects. Let's suppose there are 4 partners. Okay. Now, who are the partners? A, B, C, and D. So what will happen? Say one file of A is picked up, one file of B is picked up, one file of C is picked up, one file of D is picked up. Okay. Now A is reviewing file of B, B is reviewing file of A. Okay. C is reviewing file of C, D is reviewing file of C. So do you think they will be able to maintain the independence in terms of this monitoring? May not be. Why? Because one, they are connected to each other. They to a certain extent are engaged each other. They are not related parties, but of course they are partners of the firm. They know each other well. So that's where here again, this monitoring team needs to be the one who is independent in this role. So maybe what the firm can do is firm can depute D only for this role. Because his role is going to be what? Only the review. So that he can just stay independent. Yeah. Otherwise, he'll always be influenced. Why? Because if let's suppose he finds out any shortcomings in the file of C, so he may have a concern that C may also do the same for his file. Yes or no? Yeah. Okay. Further, this can always be a third party independent if the firm doesn't have the in-house capabilities. If the firm believes that they are short of people, they are short of partners, or they are short of required competent person who can carry out this activity, then they can always engage a third party who will perform this work. Okay, so every year this is something which is done. And this is not required to be done for 200 engagements. Okay, on a sample basis, maybe 1 or 2 files are picked up for each partner, for each manager, to ensure that are they able to deliver the quality which is required in respect of every engagement or not. Okay, clear on this? Yeah, everyone
Yes,
clear?
Yes, sir.
Any questions, any doubts if you have? No, clear? All right. So now moving further. Now what we will do is we will just touch upon quickly onto SA 220 and then we'll start picking up some questions. Now SA 220. SA 220 is again one auditing standard. It's similar to like any other auditing standard. But now when it comes to SA 220, it's not about firm as a whole. It's engagement specific. And if you read about this SA 220, so it says quality control for audit of financial statements. So generally there is a confusion. Now what will be the confusion? That we have SQC1, which talks about quality control. Then why there is a need for SA 220 for quality control again? Is it not a duplication? Is it not a duplication? So let's do one thing. Let's try to understand briefly as to what this SA 220 requires. And then what we will try to do is, we will try to look at some of the aspects. Okay, we'll try to look at some of the aspects in relation to this SQC vis-a-vis SA 220. So what is the objective of this auditing standard? That audit complies with professional standards. And auditor's report issued is approved. Now, please remember that when it comes to this quality control, what is the meaning of the quality control? Quality control will have a similar meaning. That means those 6 attributes that we have discussed in SQC1, these are not going to change. So if you can just look at, all the 6 will remain the same. But now, when you are talking about SA220, you are not talking about firm as a whole. You are talking about specific client, specific engagement. For example, ABC Limited was one of the client for which this firm was working. Okay. So now the firm is only thinking about engagement of ABC Limited. You can say statutory audit of ABC Limited. Okay. To that statutory audit of ABC Limited, this SA220 will apply. And it says that the engagement team will have a responsibility to ensure quality on that particular statutory audit. And what is the meaning of ensuring quality? Meaning means all the 6 traits which are there, they need to be followed by the team members. And the firm also to ensure that the quality is delivered on that particular engagement. Yeah. So you can just simply say it's all about application of all of those 6 attributes, each and every engagement. Clear? Now, when it comes to the leadership responsibilities, so performing work that complies with professional standards, legal requirements, complying with firm's quality control policies and procedures while working on that engagement, issuing auditors reports that are appropriate, engagement team's ability to raise concerns without fear of reprisals. Again, they need to be sort of, bias free. They need to be ensuring that all the ethical requirements are taken care of. They need to be ensuring that before the engagement was accepted, all the criteria were taken care of by the engagement team. They need to ensure that the right person is there for the right job, and the team mix along with the team count is appropriate for performing that engagement. Yeah. For the engagement performance, there is a proper mechanism for direction, for supervision, for performance, for reviews. If at all EQCR is required, EQCR is also involved therein. Okay. Yeah. And of course, EQCR will not be involved in each and every matter. There are some specified activities for which you engage the EQCR. Of course, on the planning stage will involve him. During the course of the engagement, if there are any critical matters. And of course, on the deliverables, you will always be engaging. Yeah. Then, monitoring. Now, as regards the monitoring, it has to be in place in respect of that engagement as well. Now, the question arises that does it mean that each and every file needs to be reviewed? That sort of practice review, or no, it's not about that type of review. Monitoring is about monitoring of all of those attributes in relation to the engagement which is performed. And documentation. Documentation, I think we don't need to discuss about it, because documentation for each and every type of audit activity is essential. Because if you don't do that, that is not required. That is not considered as if it's done. Correct? Now let's quickly try to look at the differences between SQC1 and SA220. So SQC1, it applies to entire firm, fixes the responsibility of the firm. SA220, it applies to particular audit engagement. And therefore, in this case, engagement partner will take the responsibility. Unlike SQC, wherein the leadership will be assuming that role. Yes or no? SQC1, it applies to any sort of attestation services which are provided by the firm. But for each attestation service which is in the nature of audit, SA 220 will apply. SQC1, it relates to setting up of quality control system, which is all about policies and procedures of the firm as a whole. But SA 220 is all about application of those policies and procedures to a specific engagement. Okay, so can you now understand the difference between these two? Because generally, there's a lot of confusion. Correct? SQC, it pertains to establishing a system of quality control designed to provide the firm with a reasonable assurance that the firm, its personnel, comply with professional standards, legal requirements, so that the reports issued by the firm or the engagement partners are appropriate. And once you do this, automatically what will happen? The requirement of SA 220 will also be met. Why? Because while issuing the report on any audit engagement, what does the firm need to do? They need to ensure that SQC1 is taken care of. So you can say SQC1 is what you'll start with. That's the base. With that base, you will just follow on each and every engagement. If you do not have the base, can you just get on to the audit engagement and deliver quality? No, you won't be able to do that. Yeah, so that's why SQC1 is what forms the basis. So that is what you start with. Clear? Clear on this?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay. Any questions, any doubts so far? If you have, please let me know. Because now what we will do is we'll just move on to questions. Okay, for the purposes of discussion on both of these, sort of standards. So any questions, any doubts, if you have, we can talk about that. Anyone? Any questions if you have? No? All right, great. So let's move. Right. Okay. All right, so let's look at this first question. ABC and Associates Chartered Accountants has a policy to accept the clients wherein the risk evaluation is conducted with respect to the company and the promoter. So they have a policy. Okay. So you can say risk evaluation is conducted. XYZ Limited approaches ABC. Promoter of XYZ is a close associate and family friend of Mr. A, who is the managing partner of ABC and Associates. Promoter of XYZ is a close associate, family friend of managing partner of ABC. XYZ has been in the news in the previous year for certain inquiries from regulatory authorities in relation to certain matters. Now, before ABC, XYZ was getting audited. So the existing auditor of XYZ has resigned. Now, this is again important. Existing auditor has resigned. So therefore, there's a casual vacancy. Yeah. Now, it seems XYZ is stuck. So it's ready to offer 25% more audit fee than the previous one to the new auditor. Okay. Maybe there's something stuck and that's why they are happy to pay more. But this increase seems to be quite significant. See, when you talk about 25% more, it's a significant increase. XYZ has approached ABC for appointment as auditor. Okay, now what will happen? Managing partner has a strong recommendation to the firm to accept the audit. Okay, so it seems there's a big push from the managing partner to accept this. What is your understanding of the functioning of the tone at the top of the firm ABC? What are the considerations one should exercise to uphold the quality of the firm in the given situation? Over to you. Your thoughts.
So there is a threat of familiarity threat, no?
Okay.
First of all. And percentage wise fees is giving.
Right.
So ethics is also.
So ethics is also what?
One of the ethics is also broken. Which one?
So just because you are getting more fees, so you are saying ethics are getting compromised, is it?
The percentage of fees is offered, no? That's
right. No. So it's not about percentage of fees offered. No. So you need to look at it carefully. So they are ready to offer 25% more. So let's suppose they were paying 1 crore to the previous auditor. Now they are happy to pay 1.25 crore. Okay. So it's not a fee linked to percentage of some. It's not a variable fee.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So fee is fixed.
Yes,
Only
sir.
thing is their client is ready to increase the fees significantly.
Sir, firstly on this matter, sir, the managing partner of the firm is a close associate of the family member of the promoter.
Correct.
Here the thing is, the issue is the independence of the managing partner is a questionable.
Correct.
And further, on that inquiry from the regulator and the resignation of the previous auditor,
Right.
so the thing is that the integrity of the company is questioned on this case.
Right.
Why that is question.
Correct.
And also, if I look at that situation, lack of proper establishment of the quality control,
Right.
the tone of the top of the firm is missing on this case.
Yes.
So also the commercial consideration
Yes.
should not be override the quality of the firm.
Correct.
See, here the commercial consideration is more than the 25% of the existing fees.
Right.
And although the connecting factor is close relationship of the promoters.
Right.
So considering everything, this assignment of management responsibility is a commercial consideration.
Correct.
And should not override the quality.
Right.
And also we should have the firm policy and procedure in relation to personnel demonstrate the overriding commitment to the quality. That is the leadership responsibilities. One of the main responsibilities.
Correct.
And the auditor should develop devote sufficient resource to develop the documentation of the quality control and policies is also the matter.
Correct.
And before accepting this engagement, the vital information of the client should be tested. Like we decide about the integrity of the client, promoter, and all this. We should question all the integrities. Integrity is question. And the reputation of the firm also to be tested.
Correct. Correct.
It shows that the SQC is not properly being planned in this CA firm, and also it is not being implemented.
Correct. So to a certain extent, you can say that the implementation is not in line with what it should be. See, there are few concerns we can observe here. What is the first concern? Or you can say it's a possible concern. We are not sure whether it will be the reason for the concern, but of course, it should be a matter of concern. That the client who is approaching the firm is a close associate and family friend of the managing partner. Okay, so definitely, is that sort of bringing in any influence? Answer is yes. Why? Because only because managing partner is associated with the client. What did he do? He is pushing the firm to accept it without even following the requirement criteria. If the fact pattern of the question would have said that everything has been looked at, everything has been taken care of, there is nothing to worry about it. Okay, means all the client acceptance formalities would have got completed. And after the evaluation, if everything was good to go, and that is when the managing partner pushes, it makes sense. But as of now, we are not clear. Secondly, there could also be a concern about what? About money. Why is the client happy to pay 25% more? Okay, with the changeover which has just taken place, and why is the existing auditor has resigned? So all of these factors are very important for the new firm to accept the engagement. Yes or no? Yeah. And all of these things have to come from the top, because it's the leadership which has to ensure the quality. Who has the prime responsibility for doing that? Leadership. Yes or no? So the given situation indicates proposed client is a new one whose promoter is close associate. However, previous auditor has resigned and company is offering hike. There are also regulatory inquiries which are going on against the company. Despite that, managing partner of the firm has recommended for acceptance of the offer if reflects poorly regarding the functioning at the top of the firm. Why? Because he should have ensured the process to have got carried out, and then the recommendation should have followed, not before that. Further, if you look at the SQC1, okay, it talks about all of those criteria, etc., to be looked at. In the given situation, one can say that commercial consideration, that 25% hike, seems to be one of the overriding factor. Managing partner of the firm is a close associate. The matter should have been brought to the knowledge of the firm. This should have been discussed internally, as it involves issue of independence of the managing partner as well. Further, the matter of inquiries from the regulators, previous auditors recognition. Okay, all of these factors are required to be looked at. They need to be evaluated before accepting the overall engagement. Right? So we can just simply say that some of the factors that we talked about, okay, those need to be looked at before you accept any engagement. Without that, if you do this, then it's not appropriate. Okay, then definitely we can say that the requirements of SQC1 are not being followed. I understand Ravi has a query. Yes, Ravi.
Sir, in this case, suppose auditor is not familiar, not has a close relationship, then he can accept, sir, audit.
See, he can definitely consider one of that points, okay, for evaluation of whether he should be accepting this or not. See, this relationship is such, which is not a restricted relationship. So if you look at the code of ethics, okay, there are certain relationships which are restricted, wherein you cannot move ahead. So the first point is that, can it sort of bring in any sort of impairment on the independence? Answer is yes, on the part of the managing partner. Now, how will the firm take care of this? So if let's suppose managing partner will not be involved in any capacity on that particular audit engagement. So that's how that influence of managing partner will be removed. Okay, so that is how. So some of these processes, some of these procedures, the firm will have to bring in place, okay, for accepting this engagement?
Sir, but his question is relating to if the managing partner is not a close relationship with the promoter. In
Right.
those cases, this question is talks about the even though that the integrity of the management is questionable because they
Correct.
are giving 25% more of the existing
Yes.
auditing. It's a overreading of that overreading of the commercial consideration.
Our
Correct.
answer remain the same, more or less,
Yeah,
except that.
Yes.
yeah, except only the close relationship, the other answer will be remaining the same.
Correct. Correct. See, whether there is a close relationship or not, whether there is a fee hike or not, if you look at any new engagement, okay, so let's evaluate everything. Any new engagement which the firm will pick up will require some sort of relationship with the client. Number one, will require previous auditor to resign, of course. Okay, or he may not have resigned, but maybe his block of 5 years is gone or block of 10 years is gone. Yeah. And if you look at most of the clients, they will have some or other litigation which is going on. I'm just talking about some of the practical aspects. You will always want the new client to pay you more. Yes, so all of these factors are not bad. I won't say all of these factors are bad. But the point is that with all of these factors in place, while accepting the client, you need to do your diligence, which the standard prescribes.
Yes, sir. Right, sir.
After that,
Quality. Yes, sir.
sorry, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Say quality should not be compromised with any other things.
Correct. So the
The
quality cannot be compromised. All of
compromised.
these things are required to be evaluated by the firm. If the firm believes that they are good to go with all of these things in place, they have appropriate mechanism through which they will be able to take care of any sort of risk. So what do you call this as? This is called as engagement risk. If the firm is confident that they will be take care of the engagement risk, there will not be any sort of influence of the managing partner on the engagement partner. Okay, all of those checks, policies are in place.
Yes, sir.
Then of course they can go ahead and accept it. Answer is I can't say that they cannot accept it in any ways, this engagement. No. But in this case, if the managing partner straightaway away jump on to the recommendation
Right.
without doing that or without following that process, so it seems the process is missing
Yes, yes.
or the process is bypassed, which is not appropriate.
Right, sir. So
Right?
even in this case, the managing partner, even though the close relationship with the promoter, if he put through the proper system,
Correct.
then there is no question.
Correct. In fact,
He could
he
have
should be the one who should lead by
informed,
example.
he will
Yes,
not
yes, yes.
be there in the
Okay,
team.
he should give a free hand to the other engagement partners that you do your diligence in an appropriate manner. Only when you are confident, I'll say yes to my friend that we are ready to go with this. Otherwise, I'll say no. Okay, so that is the tone at the top, which needs to be set by the leader.
Yes, sir. The
Okay, that is
managing
the
partner.
messaging he needs to pass on.
Yes, sir. The managing partner is the main role. He has to be safeguard of the total firm for the
Exactly.
quality. He
Exactly.
himself, if he is deviating, then what is the matter on this one?
Exactly. Exactly. Because he is the one who has to set it up.
He is a safeguarding position.
Exactly. That's correct. Right? All right. So then I think what we can do is we can take a break now. Yeah. So let's take a break and let's meet after the break. So after the break, we'll plan to continue with these type of questions only or of these case scenarios. Huh?
Right, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So Ashok, we can take a break. Huh? 15 minutes. Messrs. Jin Kushal and Company has been appointed as auditor of SC Limited for the financial year 23-20. Okay, so it's a professional firm. CA Jin, one of the partners of Messrs. Jin Kushal, completed entire audit work, routine audit work by 19th June 2020. Unfortunately, on the very next morning, while roving towards office of SC Limited to sign the final audit, he met with an accident and died. Now, CA Kushal, another partner of Messrs. Jin Kushal, therefore signed the accounts of SC Limited without reviewing the work performed by CA Jin. State with reasons whether CA Kushal is right in expressing an opinion on the financial statements, the audit of which is performed by another auditor. Over to you. Whether it is appropriate on the part of another partner of the firm to sign this. Quickly. Yes. What do you think?
Without reviewing the work, he should not have signed. He should have signed after reviewing the work.
Okay. But there's a practical difficulty here that that very day the financials were required to be signed off. So how do you deal with that challenge?
Sir, he can sign. He is allowed to sign the audit report. The thing is that he should obtain the reasonable assurance that the work performed by other persons is adequate for his purpose.
Right.
The thing is, actually, we can rely on the work performed by other auditors.
Right.
Yeah. We should obtain reasonable assurance. That's it. Whether the assistant or expert already he had done the audit, no, we should adequate for his purpose. That's it. He can.
Right.
Yeah, he can do so.
Okay. Anyone else? Any more thoughts?
Sir, it is responsibility of the auditor to see the all the records and all, and then he has to, whether it is signed by another or not, but he has to check all the essays and all, follow that.
Now, if you look
There
at,
should have
yes,
been a policy in place for as per SQC1 that what the documented policy should have been there that in place of an absence or some emergency.
so how will the system work? You're just trying to say, huh?
Yes, sir. In case of such emergencies or to deal with these challenges, and those challenges and those should have been dealt with then by this particular auditor and performed as per that procedure prescribed.
Okay, right.
Laid down in those policies.
Correct. So if you look at this SAT 220, okay, so it talks about engagement partner taking over audit, okay, wherein during the engagement he may apply the review procedures, significant matters that may have been raised, appropriate consultations wherever those were required to be obtained, and the resulting conclusions. Okay, means everything which is in relation to the engagement, the partner level, whatever is required to be reviewed, okay, he is supposed to review that. Further, if you look at the requirements of ethics, it's the auditor's professional responsibilities and should be complied with when the auditor delegates work to assistants or uses work performed by other auditors and experts. He will continue to be responsible. Now, this is a very important point. However, he will be entitled to rely on work performed by others, provided he exercises adequate skill, any sort of diligence, and there is no reason for him to believe anything which is not taken care. Okay. In the given case, all the auditing procedures before the moment of signing of final report have been performed by CAG. However, report is what he couldn't sign. Later on, when CA Kushal is doing that, he is allowed to sign, though he will now be responsible for expressing the opinion. Okay. Therefore, what should he do? He should exercise adequate skill, due care, and review the work performed by CAG. Okay. Now, in this case, a practical challenge which may arise, okay, from the company side, I think somewhere that sort of communication need to be made. And I think one of you rightly pointed out the firm should also have a system in place that in case of any such, sort of unforeseen event, if that takes place, so what is the policy of the firm? How will they go about it? Okay. Of course, it's a situation which needs to be taken care of by the firm appropriately, both from the perspective of its internal policies as well as considering the requirements, because the management, the company may also have some challenges. Yeah. But at the same time, any policy which is there, which can take care of all of these criteria, okay, that is important. But eventually one needs to understand that the new partner who is coming in, he is going to be held responsible for anything which is signed off. So that's why he should not be really taking any sort of shortcuts. Okay.
Sir, under which element it falls, sir?
Sorry?
Under which elements of quality control, sir, it falls?
See, it's not about falling under any element. I would say every element will apply to this, isn't it? Every element will apply to this. Why? Because when you talk about element is all about policies and procedures of the firm in respect of any particular matter. So in the given case, if there is any policy procedure, so what do? You will have to look at all of those elements. And that's why I'm saying the firm which has got a policy procedures in respect of that needs to be taken care of. Right? All right, so let's look at next one. Okay, so we are picking up these questions from RTP. If you want, you can also access that later on. VMC and Company, a firm of chartered accountants, has been auditing the financial statements of Reox Limited. Okay, it's a listed company for the past 10 years. CA Rajat, an engagement partner, has led the audit team throughout this period of 10 years. Okay, so it's one engagement partner. A recent quality control review raised concerns regarding a familiarity threat. Why? Because CA Rajat has developed a close relationship with KMP of the client. Obviously, that will happen when you stay engaged with anybody for 10 years. So there are good chances you'll have a close relationship. Okay, so the familiarity will significantly increase. Which of the following would be the most appropriate course of action for VMC to mitigate the threat of independence and objectivity in the given case as per SQC in the given scenario? Continue with the same engagement partner as long as documentation evidences independence in mind and appearance. Number one. Appoint a second partner to assist CA Rajat, but allow him to continue as the lead engagement partner. Rotate the engagement partner, appoint another qualified partner to lead the audit engagement. Request Reox to change their finance team to reduce the familiarity threat. Over to you.
C.
What about others? Tell me quickly. What do you do? Which option you think is the most appropriate one?
C, sir. Rotate.
C. Okay, so now let's evaluate all the options. See, if you ask the client to change their finance team, will it be appropriate? Will it be possible? Answer is no, because as a firm, you can't control the company. You can't control the client. Yes or no? You have to control your team, your processes, your systems you can change. You can't ask the client to change. So option D is completely gone. Okay. Now, if you look at option B, wherein you appoint a second partner. So even if you appoint a second partner, you allow CA Rajat to continue. So what will happen? That familiarity thread will continue to remain. Yeah. So you are not doing away with that. So option B therefore is not correct. If you look at option A, it says continue with the same engagement partner. So that means the firm plans to continue with the familiarity thread. Now the question arises, as long as documentation evidences. Now this is not something which the documentation will prove. Yeah, because this is something which is there in the mind, which is there in the actions. So how do you know as to what is it which has got impacted on the engagement because of this? Yes or no? So that's why SQC is very clear that whenever you have this sort of situation, rotation is most important. Right? So there has to be the rotation of the engagement part. Clear on this?
Yes,
Everyone?
sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Let's look at one more. Okay. SDC and Associates, a medium-sized audit firm, is appointed as auditor of Neuronix Limited, a listed pharma company engaged in extensive R&D with complex global operations. CA Rashi, engagement partner of SDC, is leading the audit team for the audit of the same. Okay, so CA Rashi is the audit partner. Neuronix Limited was earlier audited by a Big Four firm that withdrew from the engagement citing scope limitations. So there was a previous auditor said that I'm not getting the required information that I've asked for. So that's why they have resigned. Okay, they withdrew. During the audit planning, CA Rashi realizes that while our team is skilled in the standard manufacturing audits, they lack experience in pharma R&D and associated regulatory framework. See, every industry, if you look at, okay, every industry is quite peculiar. For an auditor, understanding of the business is very important. Because if you don't understand the business, you can't audit it. And that's where the understanding of the industry is very important. In the given situation, I think the engagement partner has felt that the team is there, but they do not have the right person for this job. Competence is missing. Okay, now what will happen? Firm is under pressure to complete the audit. Why? Because it's a listed company, so to meet the listing obligations of the company, managing partner insists on continuing the audit and advises CA Rashi to rely on firm standard procedures. So the managing partner says that don't worry, there are some standardized procedures which you can follow on any audit engagement, whether it is manufacturing, pharma, telecom, real estate. Okay, so that is the guidance, you can say, sort of, which the managing partner has given to CA Rashi. In the light of SQC 1 and SA 220, analyze the quality control considerations CA Rashi must evaluate before continuing with the engagement. What actions should she take to uphold the audit quality and the professional standards? Over to you. So what do you think CA Rashi needs to do in the given scenario? Idea is to get on to the quality in terms of delivery? Tell me.
Sir, firstly, in this question, there's clearly the previous auditor withdraw this audit position to lack of scope,
Right,
which means the integrity of the entity is questionable.
okay,
The first point, and also the
right,
second part during the discussion, the fact thing is that the engagement team does not have the competence to perform the audit.
right,
So, considering these things, if the client, the upholding quality of the firm is must. You see, if the in the commercial consideration also we need to consider, you should not override that quality of the work,
right,
and also that the policy and procedure in relation to personnel, and
right,
demonstrate the overriding commitment of the quality.
right,
And we should the firm should devote sufficient resources
right,
for the development and documentation of the quality control policy and procedure.
right,
However, before accepting the engagement, should vital information of the client, that the
right,
integrity and that reputation of the firm is and that scope limitation was there. That also then any significant matter, then reason for withdrawing the previous auditor,
right,
and also the client is involved in a money laundering activity, and
right.
all these things we need to check before doing that quality control of that acceptance, sir.
You are saying that sort of consideration is required on the part of the audit part.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but tell me one thing, this audit is already accepted. They are onto the audit now. They are in the middle of the audit. So what do they do this? What do now? Because should
They
this have been done by the auditor
uh,
beforehand, before really getting started with this audit?
so they
Because
will look into whether they can engage other
right,
sufficient personnel who have experience in these matters, whether the firm policies allow that, and
right,
whether they can get people involved in this audit who have the
yes,
necessary skill set and experience to complete the audit. And
correct,
if and I don't think so there is any threat regarding the integrity of the management, because just because the limitation on the scope means they could not get the necessary information or whatever. It is
right,
not talking about the integrity of the management. We cannot
okay,
jump to that.
correct. All right, so now in the given situation, I think the first question mark should be put on the client acceptance procedure which the firm has followed. Yes or no? Because
Yes, sir.
SQC requires that whenever you will accept the client, you will do the diligence. Means, as a firm, should you be accepting this client or not? Do you really want to service this client? Number one. If you want, can you service this client? Yeah, because if you do not have the competence, then how do you deliver the engagement, deliver anything with quality?
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir. If not
So
suitable, then
now,
can withdraw the engagement also.
correct.
The,
And the other aspect is that if let's suppose you want to do the client, you have the skill set. In that case, why has the previous auditor moved out? Okay, so it seems that there is some concern which the previous auditor wants to highlight about the company, about the documentation which is in place, or maybe there are some critical matters which are not getting resolved, or maybe the management is not able to get that resolved and which are important for the closure of the audit, without which you can say clean opinion may not have been provided. So that's why the previous auditor may have decided to withdraw. Okay, provided again he was allowed to withdraw, because in some of the cases previous auditor is not allowed to withdraw. So we are assuming that in the given case previous auditor is allowed to withdraw. So I would say these are some of the factors which they need to consider, right? And these are quite critical. All of these factors are quite critical on the part of the firm, okay, as far as the requirements of SQC1 are concerned. Now, when it comes to SA220, I think we have already discussed that. SA220 is no different from SQC1. Why? Because SA220 is all about application of the SQC on a particular audit engagement. Yes or no? Yeah. So if the firm fails to apply the requirements of SQC1, or you can say SQC1 is weak in terms of its implementation within the organization, the firm is bound to face such challenges on the engagements on a regular basis. Correct? Yeah. So the same thing is now going to be a challenge on the part of CA Rashi. Yeah. But because the engagement is accepted, so she may also evaluate whether she would like to continue with this or not, with the limitations. And considering the fact that audit quality may be getting impaired. Yeah. Further, in this case, another very important point, which I think needs to be highlighted, is about the discussion between the managing partner and CA Rashi. It appears managing partner is not taking care of the requirements of SQC. Because if he would have considered, he would not have advised CA Rashi to follow the standardized procedures. Why? Because each and every client could be unique. It may have different issues altogether. It may have different challenges as far as audit is concerned. So to apply a standardized set of procedures on a particular audit client could be like taking a risk in respect of some of those procedures which you could not apply. Which is again a big risk as far as the audit of financial statements is concerned. Correct? So what should CA Rashi do? She must not proceed, she must not continue unless satisfied that she should assess the firm's capability, consider engaging external experts, understand the reason by having communication with the previous auditor as to why he has moved out, which now needs to be taken care of by CA Rashi. Ensure EQCR is in place because that is going to be a support for CA Rashi. Yeah. Thereby ensuring the quality. Okay. Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's move further. Next. CAM is introduced to a prospective client in a social function. He assures to visit the office of CAM, means the client, in relation to the professional work. During the discussions over a cup of coffee next week, it transpires that there was a search by a regulatory authority in his premises about a month back, resulting in recovery of huge sum of cash. Another authority had also searched his premises in relation to bogus capital gains on penny stocks. Complaining about poor quality of services provided by his present auditor, he offers appointment as tax auditor of his 5 family-owned firms to CAM in lieu of handsome fees. What are the factors you would evaluate to take up any such engagement if you were the auditor or if you were the auditor who has been proposed? Yes, over to you. What are your thoughts? What are going to be your considerations in this case?
My consideration, I will not accept this audit, sir, because
Okay.
the client is involved in money laundering and criminal audit activities. The integrity is questionable.
Right. Okay, so you have just looked at the conclusion. Okay. I think
Actually, they say integrity to be tested. Integrity means the
Correct.
factor.
Just give me a minute. See,
Okay.
every time whenever you look at any question, please remember.
Last line is not visible.
Okay, now is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, the one which I highlighted. So in the given case, of course, it's good to give the conclusion, but the question is asking you what are the factors you will evaluate if you want to take up the engagement.
Say
It
if
is
I
not
want to,
asking you whether you will accept it or not. What are the factors? Okay, so you need
see,
to be looking at the requirements. Now, understanding the requirements of the question are very important. Huh? Now, in
right.
the light of what the question is asking you, you can answer this.
See, the factor means in evaluating the internal control, internal integrity of the client activities, I need to look into before acceptance or continuance of the audit.
Okay, very good.
In this case, the integrity to be tested. That
Yes,
the point one is that is there any reason for previous auditor to not taking the position, the reason behind, and also the reputation of the firm, and also any significant matter is involved, any
right,
money laundering activities are involved.
right,
All these criteria factor I will first evaluate and check.
right.
Then in this situation, they involved in the money laundering and the criminal activities, so I will not accept the audit assignment.
Okay, very good.
So there is a need to communicate with the previous auditor
Okay,
before acceptance.
okay, so that's a valid point. Before you get on to any sort of attestation engagement, what do? You reach out to the previous one. Okay, you check with them whether I should be accepting this or not. But tell me one thing, it's a good point
And
you've just raised. Okay, just continuing on the point that you mentioned. If you are aware that the question is asking you about tax audit, question is not asking you about statutory audit. So do you think there is a need to communicate with the previous auditor for accepting the tax audit? Is it
no,
not something which is
no,
only
no.
limited to statutory audit?
No,
Correct.
no, no, no. It's not limited to only for such audit. See, each and every engagement, whether it is assurance service or the audit engagement or anything, whatever the case may be, we need to communicate with the previous auditor.
Correct. So this is something which will also apply to tax audit. Correct?
And sir, he did not, do a competence capability test before, jumping onto the acceptance. Whether he will be able to, these factors should be looked into before accepting the client.
Yes.
Whether his organization, whether his firm has the necessary personnel dealing with tax matters, who are well equipped to deal with enforcement directorate raid cases and all those.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. That's a valid point. Okay, so let's look at the solution.
And sir,
Yes.
it may amount to, it can be, stretched to a point that it may be a soliciting sort of a, meeting in a private function and getting a work. So it can, I'm not saying it will amount to, but it can be considered.
But I would say that that's how you reach out to the clients. Okay,
Correct,
so
correct.
if you are meeting the clients, whether it's in a social function or otherwise, so that is all okay. So there is absolutely no problem in doing that. But it should not happen that it's a relationship that you have developed because of which you are accepting the engagement and thereby you are just trying to ignore some of the requirements of SQC.
Right.
It's similar to remember if you go back to that question wherein we discussed that the managing partner happened to be a friend. Okay, so even if it's a friend, any engagement that you get, you need to evaluate that in an independent manner, in a professional manner.
Correct, sir.
That's how
Right,
you
sir.
need to go about it. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sure. All right. So let's look at one more. RST and Company, a firm of chartered accountants. They are the auditors of a listed company. I understand Mr. Ravi has a question. Yes, Ravi.
My question is, he said he should not accept the audit current situation, sir.
Yeah, so see, this situation, on the basis of the fact pattern which is available. Okay, it appears to be quite a risky work.
Sir,
Yes or no?
but the question also mentioned that sir, previous auditor is not performing well, but poor quality is service provided by previous auditor. If the client wants to change the auditor, then nobody can accept this sir auditor. Then who will audit? Means again he will audit with previous auditor, sir.
No, you are absolutely right. So you're saying that if everybody keeps saying no, so where will the client go? I agree with you. I agree with you. So your point is valid. But in this case, see, there are a couple of points that you have raised, and let me just clarify on that one. See, if you look at CAM, it appears he has got some business. Okay, and in respect of this business, how is that structured? Whether it's a company or what is that, we don't know. Okay, we can assume that it's a family-owned firm, which he is also looking at. Okay, his business is in the form of a family-owned structure. Okay, we can sort of assume that. And for that family-owned firm, the next assumption will be that statutory audit is not mandatory, tax audit is what is required. Okay, so in that case, what he has offered is, he has offered the same engagement which will move from the previous auditor to the new. So it's like he wants to change the audit. So that could be one of the assumptions. Other assumption is that he has got a business. He is not happy with the previous auditor. Now to try out the new auditor, he is offering some of the firms to the new auditor. So previous auditor continues on the previous one, or maybe on some of the firms, and the new auditor comes on the new one. In both the cases, because the auditor is going to get changed, so that's why communication with the previous auditor will be mandatory. Okay. Now, as regards your concern, that if let's suppose earlier it was say ABC and company, now the client reaches out to PQR and company. Okay. So client doesn't find ABC to be appropriate. So that's why they want to remove ABC and they want to appoint PQR, but PQR is not ready to accept. So where will he go? So can we say that he has got only one choice to continue with ABC? The answer is no. Answer is no. See, of course, a new auditor will come in. There's no doubt about it. If the client wants to change other than PQR, maybe that MNO may accept it, or say LPL may accept it. Yeah. So any other firm can accept it. But the challenges which have been put down in the fact pattern puts a question mark on the integrity of the management. Okay. See, the involvement in some of the regulatory matters and considering the nature of the matters which are involved will put a big question mark on every professional firm as to whether they want to engage with the client or not. In this case, what is going to be more important for PQR? Is the client looking to change ABC, or has ABC refused to work on this engagement? Because it may have happened that ABC doesn't want to continue. Why? Because the nature of the business of the client is such that he doesn't feel comfortable remaining associated with the client. Yes or no? But the client has presented that in a different manner to PQR, which PQR has understood, and that's why he also doesn't want to continue. The idea is, can you really isolate the client, see if the client is indulged in illegal activities, then that is something for the authorities to look at. Okay. Or even if, let's suppose, the auditor wants to come in and audit, so auditor should be very clear how to report all of these things, how to address all of these points during the course of his audit. If the auditor is confident that he will be able to address such a situation, he will be okay being associated with such set of persons and still staying independent. See, independent is also about staying free from any sort of threat. Yeah, that intimidation threat should also not be there. Yes or no? Yeah. So only and only when the new auditor is clear about it, he can accept it. Otherwise, he may continue rejecting it. Yeah. Clear on this?
Yes, sir. So safeguard is of reporting. Matlab, he can safeguard himself by reporting the which is not
See, it's not
illegal.
only about reporting, it's also about auditing first. Because the auditor should be confident that they will be able to perform their required audit procedures. They will be able to ask for the required information. And while they do so, there will not be any sort of threat on them. They will be free from any sort of such influence. Only then they will be able to conclude right. Yes or no? If they don't conclude, what do they report? They may not be able to report right. Correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's what they need to be sure about. If they are sure, then of course they can continue with this.
So no limitation of scope of audit.
Of course, no limitation should be there, or if there is a limitation, they should be ready to report that there was a limitation. Or maybe they also found what the authorities have been looking at and they need to escalate that. If let's suppose there is fraud, there are illegal activities, they need to bring it in their report.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. So let's look at the next one. RST and Company. It's a firm of chartered accountants. They are the auditors of a listed company which is engaged in manufacturing of heavy machinery components. Okay. Audit report for the year 23-24 also included report on matters listed in CAF. While reporting under clause 7A relating to regularity of undisputed statutory dues, auditors have commented that company is generally regular in depositing statutory dues to the appropriate authorities. Is the above reporting qualitative and in line with the requirements of SA 220? Now, this is an important point. Auditor is saying they are generally. So, what is the meaning of this generally? A company should either be regular or not regular. What do you mean when you say company is generally regular? It appears that the auditor wants to bring in some point, or maybe auditor is using a loose language.
He's playing safe.
Your thoughts are required on this. Yes. Over to you.
Sure. Generally, regular means he is trying to provide the clean report. Am I right?
No. So you are saying that generally means that it's a loose language in a way auditor is using, but he is like clear. He's saying it's good to go. Is it?
Even though the regularity of the undisputed statutory due by the company.
So you are saying that it means that the company is good as far as the statutory dues are concerned. So they are getting deposited on time, correct?
He's saying, sir, that they are generally regular, but there may be some instances.
Okay, but he has not highlighted that there are some instances.
He has not highlighted, but he's covering that. I mean, he's not bringing that out.
So do you think this report is okay, or he has lost out on those words?
He lost out, sir. The quantitative and qualitative information should be reported on the CARO report. report.
Right.
He missed on the qualitative matters.
Okay, so you are saying the report is not in line with what it should be.
Correct, sir. See, actually,
So there are gaps in the report, is it?
Yeah, gaps in the report. Also, when I am writing for the answer to this question, first I will say that what is that objective of that SA 220. The objective, it should be reasonable reliance on the providing the PLR. PLR is nothing but that professionals comply with the professional standard and regularity and the legal requirement.
Okay.
But in this given case, that auditor is giving the generally regular, which means is that qualitative information is not in order. So, so I am coming to the conclusion that he is the reporting under CARO is not in proper, I would say.
Okay. So what is wrong?
What is wrong? Wrong in the sense that the generally regular, that that's the
so if
quality.
let's suppose you were the auditor, what is the language you will use to make it correct? Tell me. So if there is something wrong, so you must be knowing what is right. So what needs to be done by the auditor? So how will he write this?
He'll write either
some sentences or maybe a sentence.
So generally, word can be removed.
Generally, so no. So if you are saying that his is not, so if you are saying if you take out generally, then it's good to go.
Sir, I will say that the statutory dues are paid on time by the company.
Okay.
All the statutory dues. If it is all statutory dues as paid by the company, I will state right away all the statutory dues are paid by the company on the due date. If not paid, then the statutory dues are not paid by the company on due date. The list also I will provide. These are the instances the company is not paid the statutory dues. Say example, that TDS, the timeline is 7th of every month. See, if we paid, what is the actual payment date? What is the due date? What is the deviation? That I will report it.
So you'll bring in the instances, huh?
Yeah,
all the instances or only few instances?
So all the instances, wherever
all
it
the
is,
instances.
all the instances.
Okay, very good, very good. Anyone else? All right, so now, such type of reporting is not qualitative. It is not in accordance with SA 220. One of the objectives of the auditor is to implement quality control procedures. Okay, that provide the auditor with reasonable assurance that the audit complies with professional standards and the regulatory and regular requirements have been taken care of. Yeah. Okay. So therefore, you would say that the auditor doesn't comply with the legal and regulatory requirements. Next. PQR and Associates are the statutory auditors of a listed company. There arose an issue during the course of audit relating to related party transactions. Now, this is very critical area. Engagement partner wants to consult EQCR on this matter during the course of audit process itself. He is not waiting for the audit to get completed. Now that's the concern. It appears to be the case. Huh? Can he consult with the EQCR? Now the question is, can he consult with the EQCR during the course of audit? Should it not wait for the audit to get completed? I think we discussed this. Over to you. What do you think? In this case, what should the engagement partner do?
Sir, definitely that EQ, that he can consult, sir. The engagement quality control reviewer, as you discussed in that meeting beginning, informed that it is not, we can involve that that person in the during the business also. because if you are accumulating all the points, say 20 instance on 30 instance, and providing him at a point, he may not be able to complete that activity, the EQR. So we can discuss, we can that we can consult with him, sir, during the audit.
Okay. What about others? What are your thoughts?
Because some of the planning and performance of the audit may change on these discovery of the related party transactions. So he needs to bring the EQCR on board with those discoveries and the changes in the plans and procedure he intends to perform, and EQCR needs to be brought on board with those.
Correct. Correct. So you're saying EQCR should be consulted during the course of audit itself.
Yes, he needs he before, at the time of starting itself, he was consulted, and because of the discovery of these related party matters, the auditor may make some changes in the conduct of the audit and the plans and the procedures and the so these changes may need to be brought to the notice of the EQCR and need to be discussed with him, that we are
Correct.
planning to these changes on the procedure aspect and planning aspect.
Right. Okay. So now it's necessary to maintain objectivity of it. Therefore, participation in engagement or making decisions for the engagement team is to be avoided at all costs. However, engagement partner may consult with EQCR during the engagement so as not to compromise his objectivity and eligibility to perform the right. Next, B&E are in the midst of audit process. During the audit, an issue arose relating to revenue with the customers. So I think there's some issue around revenue. Okay, and the company is following in days. Ravi, I'll come to your query. Engagement partner took a certain stand. However, EQCR recommended otherwise. So it appears there's a conflict. Engagement partner has a different stand. EQCR has a different stand. Engagement partner is not willing to accept recommendation of the review. Okay. Now, what do you do in this situation? How do you resolve this conflict? Over to you.
Sir, firstly, the firm should have that policy and procedure when there is a conflict between the engagement partner and the engagement quality reviewer. See, that any point, see, it has to be accepted, it has to be resolved, and the matter also, whatever discussed, is to be documented. In this case, the engagement partner is not willing to accept the recommendation of the reviewer. Then we have to go with the another person to have the consultation. That then we should come into the zero level. The issue. Then only it good to go for audit signing. So they can consult the other person. They can involve the other practitioner or firm or professional in the outside of the firm also. They can go and refer, and they can come to bring it to the acceptable levels. This is what my thing is. There is a conflict. Okay. Conflict should be resolved this way.
So reasons for disagreement should be looked into.
Yeah, that should be.
What are the reasons they are differing? I mean, A is not accepting these reasons. What is the rationale for not?
And all these things to be documented. Documentation should be there.
Okay, but how do you resolve the conflict? Because if you document, if you put down the reasons, how do you resolve?
Resolve means here we are unable to give the solution by the engagement reviewer. Then we will go to the other person. Person who is not
going to be that other person?
Other person can be other practitioner, another firm or consulting within the firm also who is not involved in this engagement. We can discuss, or any other person outside, or we can go to our ICAI also.
Okay.
for clarifying doubt.
Correct.
Yeah, we have to resolve that before for finalization.
So I think it's a valid suggestion. See, when it comes to any such situation on the engagement, which is quite possible because two persons can also have a different view. For this, I think SQC already has a process in place. Yes or no? Yeah. So now, what does the SQC speaks? SQC will have some mechanism to resolve any sort of situation. So if there is a conflict, how do you resolve the conflict? So the partner may have to bring in the managing partner who may be assigned this responsibility of resolving the conflict. So he will understand both the views, and then of course they will maybe three of them will then sit together, and they will then reach the conclusion, which is the best conclusion given the facts and given the accounting literature which is available. If at all they require any sort of consultation on this matter, that again will be reflected in the policy of the firm through SQC, wherein again they may involve some partner of the firm or maybe the senior member of the firm who is going to help on this particular matter. Or if they require, they can also reach out to an external party who can consult them on this. Okay, and that's how this conflict has to be resolved. Yeah, but the important point is that till the time the conclusion is not reached through the resolution, audit report should not be issued. It should happen that the auditor say that the audit partner says, okay, we'll resolve it later on. As of now, let me issue the audit. What if the view of audit partner was wrong, EQCR was correct? So what will you do then? And there's a risk. Okay. So the important point is that the opinion will have to wait till the time this resolution or this conflict is not resolved. And where do you get this from? That will come from the SQC, which the firm would have set up. Okay. Clear? I understand, Ravi, you had a query. Yes, Ravi.
Sir, I'm confused with the previous question, sir. Just previous question.
Yes.
Whether auditor should take a consultation from the reviewer or from other group of persons, sir.
No, so the previous question asked you about EQCR specifically. Okay, the question was, can the engagement partner in the middle of the engagement reach out to EQCR?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's suppose this is when the audit has started. Okay, now it's the middle of the engagement. Okay, and somewhere over here, reporting will be done when the conclusions will be drawn. That is where you reach out to EQCR for sure. So the question is that during this stage,
yes, sir,
can the engagement partner reach out to EQCR for these sort of queries? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. Why? Because there is a critical issue which has arose. To consult the EQCR, who is part of the engagement team. Of course, see, the role of the EQCR is quite different. In a way, EQCR is required to review what the audit partner has done. Okay, what is the role of EQCR? In a way, he is sitting there as a second partner who will review as to what the first partner has done or whether the first partner has done the work in an appropriate manner. That's the role of EQCR. So that's why his objectivity should not be compromised. Yeah, but if you go reach out to him for the critical matter and discuss with him with your view, see, idea should not be to take solutions from him. Idea should be to reach out to him with your views, wherein he can also share his view, and that's how you can resolve it. But every now and then the team should not reach out to him for sort of any questions which they may have, for any queries which they may have. Otherwise, what will happen? His role will get diluted. He will also be playing the role more of an audit partner rather than a reviewing partner. Okay, clear on this, Ravi?
Yes, sir. Individual within the firm means it is a reviewer or other group of persons, sir. This is the I'm confused, sir.
See, EQCR has to be an audit partner generally or the senior member of the firm. Now, what is the role of EQCR? Role of EQCR is like a second partner.
Okay, sir.
He is like a second audit partner. So there's one engagement partner who will audit or who will
Yes.
get the audit done from the team, review the work, then sign off the financial statements.
Okay.
EQCR is second audit partner. Before the first engagement partner will sign, he will get this reviewed from EQCR. EQCR should also be feeling okay that whatever engagement partner has done is appropriate. That's the role of EQCR.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and EQCR has to be the one within the firm only generally. But if at all firm doesn't have, they may reach out to third party also. But generally you find that in-house only. And generally it has to be the audit partner. Okay,
Okay, sir.
Ravi, clear on this?
Okay, sir.
Okay, let's look at one more. Yeah. MB and Associates is a partnership firm which was established 7 years back. Firm is getting new clients. They have also been offered new engagement services with existing clients. So both ways. They are getting new clients and new jobs with the existing clients. Firm is concerned about obtaining such information as it considered necessary before accepting an engagement with a new client and acceptance of new engagement with an existing client. Client is looking to work, the firm is looking to work with only select clients to adhere to quality control standards. You are required to guide the firm about the matters to be considered with regard to the integrity of a client as per the requirements of SQC1. Over to you. So what are the factors you will consider in relation to integrity of the client before you accept or you continue with the client? Over to you.
So, when we are accepting a new engagement or continuing the existing client, the integrity of the client to be tested at each point in time.
Right.
The integrity is nothing but the reputation of the business, that
Right.
the owner, related parties, and those charged with governance. We need
Yes.
to check the reputation.
Right.
And also nature of businesses and operation.
Yes. Right.
What is this? And also that what is the attitude of the client? We need to check with it. He is aggressive, all these things, whether and also the concern whether is he trying to reduce the fees.
Yes.
Or whether it is scope of audit is inappropriate, limitation is provided.
Yes.
And if the client is involved in any money laundering activities. And
Right.
also we need to look at any reason for non-reappointment of the previous auditor.
Right.
We need to communicate with them and we need to understand that also. The integrity is main core area to accept the audit before continuance and acceptance.
Correct. So if you look at the requirements, okay. So what are the requirements? Identify business reputation of the client's principal owners, KMPs, related parties, TCWG, nature of the client's operations, its business practices, okay, attitude of the owners, KMPs, okay, towards such matters as aggressive interpretation of accounting standards. Means, are they following the requirements of accounting standards in the right spirit? What about the controls, okay, within the environment? Whether the client is aggressively concerned with maintaining the firm's fees as low as possible. Okay, so these are some of the factors one needs to consider. if there is any limitation in scope of work, okay, if the client is involved in some sort of illegal activities, reasons for proposed appointment. So if they plan to change the firm, so why is the firm getting changed? Yeah. So these, I would say, are some of the factors which need to be looked at. Okay. So with this, I think we can just conclude our discussion for today on both these SQC and SA 220. Any questions, any doubts that you may have, we can discuss that now. And then I think we also have Karuna ma'am and Tanya ma'am to discuss this further. Yes, I understand. Ravi, you have a query?
Sir, these factor have to check with when we are existing, when we continue with clients, existing clients, sir?
See, in both the cases. So when you accept a new client, that is where it is going to be extremely important, because that is the first time you are developing a relationship with the client. Okay, so of course,
Yes,
at that point of time, you will look at all these factors.
yes, sir.
But even if you are continuing with the same client, let's suppose you are, say for example, auditing a particular company, ABC Limited. Now, during the course of audit, you may face some challenges. You may come across some events which you do not like as a firm, because every firm will have some policies and procedures. Yes or no? So we discussed that every firm will have policy and procedures. That's how they will set up their firm. They will have some objectives which they are looking at as to how they want to go about it. For example, if you look at this particular situation, okay, this firm is thinking that they will only work with a select clients. So that is their policy. Some of the firms may be thinking that they are open to all the clients. The only thing is they want to evaluate all of them. So similarly, every time, every firm will have a different thought process. So that's where every year, when you continue on the same engagement, you are required to evaluate whether it will be correct on your part to continue or not. And therein, yes.
Even if there is no indication to contrary of the points given, then also we have to check, sir.
Correct. So it's like a reassessment. So if you believe that all the factors are going to be ticked off, why? Because during the course of audit, you are associated with them, you are aware of the developments which are taking place. So you can say when it's a new client, your assessment may take 2 days or maybe 10 days. When it's a continuing client, your assessment may be completed within a day. But of course, this assessment is required for sure. You can't ignore this process. If you do that, that will be considered to be non-compliance of one of the requirements of SQC. And this is also required to be documented. If let's suppose you have done that quickly, you need to document it, because everything that you document will form part of your audit file. And that is what you need to archive towards the end. So this will form part of your engagement file also. And further, when the firm will review that, remember that monitoring mechanism that we discussed, the firm will have in place. So at the time of monitoring, they may also pick up some of these instances and they may check that if you have done this continuance assessment, so whether that was done in an appropriate manner or not. Because many times, particularly when you are continuing, see, this is something which I have seen practically quite a lot. When you are continuing with a client, okay, so you develop sort of a relationship with them. And that is where you may lose out on some of the important parameters to be assessed. And that's where this monitoring mechanism helps the firm to find out if there are any sort of breaches, if there are any non-compliances. Okay.
Sir, I have another question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, suppose there is a risk of material misstatement which is low when assessing.
You're saying risk for
material misstatement when accepting the client is low.
Okay.
Then this is to be recorded, sir.
No, what is the meaning of risk of material misstatement is low? Are you talking about assessment which you have done at the time of accepting, or yes, you have completed the audit and then you are saying you're
accepting, sir, at the time of accepting?
See, you will accept a client when the risk of material misstatement is low, generally. Okay, generally, yes, that's what the firms do. In fact, they have a parameter internally. What they said is they will have a parameter: low, medium, or high. Generally, whenever the risk of material misstatement or risk of client acceptance, okay, or maybe the risk which will be there on the audit opinion, which the auditor believes is going to be there once the client is accepted. When it is going to be low or medium, that is when the client is easily accepted. Whenever it's high, that is a red flag, you can say. And that is what requires a scrutiny at the firm level. Because eventually, what are you trying to address? You are trying to address that later on when you will do the audit, when you will reach the conclusions, will you be able to give the right opinion or not on the financial statements? Okay. So today, when you see there is a high risk, so you'll have to understand what all procedures you are going to apply to ensure that you are reaching the right conclusions and thereby at the right opinion. Okay, it's not required to be reported in the audit report. That is your assessment. Just because the risk was high doesn't make it a matter of qualification in the audit report or any sort of modification in the audit. No, that is a part of your internal process. You can say internal procedures. But as far as audit report is concerned, that will go on the basis of the conclusions you have reached.
It is to be recorded for myself, sir, but for auditors,
Yes.
sir?
Yeah. For your documentation, it is going to be extremely important. It will form part of your documentation.
It is an element of
In your,
quality control, sir.
sorry?
It is covered in the quality control, sir, but it is the elements of quality control under quality control, sir.
Right. So it will be covered under two things. One, for SQC, there is a firm-wide requirement of application of SQC. Yes or no? So
Yes,
as a part of SQC, when you will accept a client which has got high risk, so you'll document as to why did you accept, what are the criteria which the firm talks about you need to follow. That's what you will document. Okay, so that will help the SQC implementation documentation. So that's first. Secondly, now it's an audit engagement, so you'll have to consider the requirements of SA 220. So the same documentation will also be used for your audit engagement file. So you can say the similar document will be used at two places to take care of two standards, SQC1 as well as SA 220. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Any more questions?
No, sir. Clear, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. So over to you, Karna ma'am.
Thank you, Achal sir. And good morning, all the students. I hope you're enjoying, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We are having our first session on engagement and quality control standards. And you all are aware that we are having 5 sections in our curriculum, right? In syllabus. So out of 5, this is the most important and covering the vast weightage, means maximum weightages of this section 1, which is comprising of chapter 1 to chapter 11, right? And I hope you are serious about engagement and quality control standards. Now, I would like to ask you, how many standards are there? Engagement and quality control standards. Can any one of you answer?
Engagement for 2 standards are there at the firm level, SQC1, and the financial statement level, SA 220.
Okay, I am asking in total how many standards are there? Like SQC1 is 1, then we are having standards on auditing, we are having standards on assurance engagement, we are having standards on review, right? SRE, standards, related services. So in total, how many standards are there? Or if I put in another way, how many standards on auditing are there?
Ma'am,
Geeta,
total,
Prashant.
ma'am,
Yeah.
total number is not like by SA 200 series, 300 series, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800.
Right.
Total number of not aware, ma'am.
Anyone else? Prashant, can you tell, or Geeta?
No, ma'am. Total number is not known.
Okay. So, students, actually, we are having total 46 standards, right? Total engagement and quality control standards. We are having 46. And out of 46, one is SQC, right? 2 are SRS, 3 SAE, and 2 SREs. SRE is review engagement. SAE is assurance engagement, and SRS is related services, right? So out of 46, if we deduct 2 SRS, 3 SAE, 2 SRE, and 1 FP, how many standards will be left? 8. 8 we will deduct 38 standards we are having, right? And in these 38, we are having different series, like SA 200 series. So this Sammenathan told na, SA 200 series, 300 series. Then we are having 500 series, 600 series, and 700 series, and 800 is specialized area. So each and every standard series is unique and very important, right? Now, can any one of you tell me what is the difference between SQC1 and SA220? You know, both deal with quality control. And Achal sir has explained very nicely and in detail also, with the help of questions also. Can any one of you tell me what is the difference between SQC1 and SA220?
Ma'am,
SQC1 is firm level and 220 is individual. All the auditors have to follow.
Okay, so can you tell me it is for particular engagement, for all the engagement SA? You told me, Geeta, that SQC1 is for firm level, right? That is very much correct. But if we talk about SA220, you told that it is for audit engagement. It is for all the audit engagement or any particular audit engagement?
No, ma'am, for all the audit. Once firm individual level also, they have to follow 220.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. It's applicable to audit, review, historical financial related to all the engagement. SQC1 is applicable. SA220 is applicable only to the audit engagement. It is
right.
That is a self standard. Only, yes. SQC1 is a generic standard.
Right. So it is applicable, SQC1 is applicable to SA, SAE, SRE, and SRS. And this question was asked in the final examination, right? I think it was in May 24. This was the part of the question paper, that whether SQC1 will be applicable on other than SA. So any other difference, if you can tell me? This is the one difference.
Ma'am, the responsibility is the managing partner or the CEO of the company to develop the policy and procedure to communicate SQC1. SA200, the responsibility is with the engagement partner.
Good. Any other difference?
In SQC1, we set it is setting up of quality control system, policy and procedure at the firm level.
Right.
And SA220 is application of those policy and procedures to a specific engagement.
Okay. So you have covered almost all the pointers, right? So I think, and I hope you are preparing your notes also the way you are studying. One more question I would like to ask. One of the engagement partner is looking after the engagement of having audit of listed entity. And he is doing since 8 years. Now, the senior partner is having objection on the same. He said, because they both have the company of which he is pursuing audit, they have established very good relationship. The senior management is of the opinion that yes, they can continue. But some of the partner objected that since it's long, so we need to change, whether it is required or not.
Ma'am,
7 years. 7 years requirement is there for, and because
so good.
Familiarity.
So you all are aware that 7 years requirement is there, and more than 7 years, of course, we need to
change. Ma'am, even though the company audit situation is that 5 years plus 5 years, 10 years, they can continue as the audit firm. Due to the familiarity threat and other things, for the limited listed companies, every once in 7 years, they have to rotate the audit.
Yeah, for 7 years.
Engagement partner.
Yeah, every 7 years to change engagement partner.
Yeah, and that good one point you told, familiarity threat.
Yes.
That's good. So I hope you are preparing well, and all of you are aware of the questions which we have asked. And Achal sir has very, very in detail discussed all the questions also, which are covering MTP, RTP, study material, and previous examination question paper also. So that you can you can also have practice. But after this, we'll request you to write at least 2 to 3 questions, review that, okay, so that you are able to analyze whether you are writing required and relevant answer, whether it is covering all the pointers. If anything is missing, you can improvise. Definitely don't forget to check what you have written is correct or not. Okay, in-depth analysis is required, and then write again. And this practice for 2 to 3 days will make you more successful, and you will not be you'll be getting full marks. It will not happen that you have attempted only half of the paper, right? So do practice and prepare your own notes and mark the questions which are very important or in which you are finding difficulty. So when you are before examination, 2 days duration will be there. In that 2 days, you can revise the whole syllabus. Okay. And next time I'll again ask you how many standards are there. I hope you will be knowing
46.
that, because this time what happened in the paper, rather than SRE, the printing mistake was there. But since you are not aware, 2400 series is covering review services only, and in the scope of work also it was given that the auditor is appointed for review of the financial statement, but you got confused that why it is mentioned as SAE. So simple typographical mistake was also not been able to understood by the students. So if you are aware what is the name, why it is, and which series talks about the same, you will not find any difficulty when you are writing in the paper. So please, you must be aware that how many standards are there, SRE is applicable on which kind of engagements. So of course, Achal Sil will be covering all the standards in detail. But yes, I expect from you also at the final level that you must be aware, because these standards are very, very important. And I think time is indicating us to wind up. Thank you each and everyone. Thank you, Achal sir. Thank you, technical team. Wishing
Thank
you
you,
all
ma'am.
the very best, bachon. And we are having our next session on Tuesday, right? So till the time you prepare, so that in the next session you can ask other queries also. Yeah. And one more thing that we generally tell you, that we are having open session, that is query resolving session. And for auditing subject, it is on every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. Of course, it is not available live, but you can participate. If you have studied and you are having any doubt in any of the topic, you can participate in that. You can ask the questions, and any other doubt you are having relating to auditing subject. And I wanted to speak, I think.
Ma'am, thank you to ICAI. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Geeta. Prashant, you want to say something?
I was just saying thank you, ma'am, and thank you to Achal sir. So nice
Thank
of you.
you. Thank you, Achal sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
So,
Thanks so much.
Yes, yes. Yeah.